Good afternoon. I noticed lately, and I have been painting tons of Christmas stuff, had lots of Christmas orders, and I'm not saying I'm burnt out painting Christmas because I absolutely love it, but I needed something flowery to make me think of warmer weather. I painted some beach scenes yesterday that made me feel good. Today I wanted to paint a dahlia, and wanted to show you guys, walk you through how I do it. First of all, I get paint in my paint well, and I'm going to use a pretty purple color. Yeah, my paints are a hot mess. So what I did was I mixed up quite a bit here. There is pigment here, but there's also quite a bit of water, and I may add a little bit more, and here's why. When you paint a dahlia, you're going to do it in stages. And let me show you my finished one. This is the one that I had done before. And you can see the inner petals, or the outside petals, are a lot lighter in color. And that's what you want to strive for and kind of build on that. So what I'm going to do is I took the purple, well, it's almost a pinkish color now that I really stir it around. And that's fine. I want something that's lighter, so I'm going to try it on my test strip so that I can add more pigment to it, more paint to it, and make it darker as we go. This seems a little bit light, but it will dry lighter, I believe. You can see, I hope you can see this, I drew a really faint circle here, and I do that for myself because I tend to, I don't know, I can't paint in a circle for some reason, so I like to have that as a model to go by. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start at the outer edge, and I'm using that push down, pull up technique to make the petals, and I'm just going inside my circle a little bit, okay? And I'm kind of doing the stroke twice to make my petals bigger. I'm using a size 8 Princeton round brush. I could go for a bigger brush, which would probably make more sense, but this is one of my favorites, and I hate to, I don't know, I hate to change. And this way, I also show you, you don't have to have a great array of brushes to paint something like this. You can just adapt. Smaller brushes are fine too. So I'm getting this all the way around, and I am leaving spaces for a reason. And I feel like I'm at school. Hey, does anybody know why I'm leaving those gaps? Not that I can see you, raise your hands, but here's the reason. I am going to go back in and fill in those spots as this dries a little bit because I don't want it to bleed together. I will let it dry, or I'll dry it with my dryer, and then I can fill in those gaps with just a touch darker color. Okay, so my petals are mostly dry. I added more water to my, I did add a little bit more water, but I added more pigment, more paint to my pan. And so my next round of petals should be a hair darker. And we can kind of overlap these girls, okay? And the petals do not have to be perfect. Perfection in nature is not really seen, other than we know that God made it, so it's perfect. If it's good, God did it. So don't worry about them being the perfect petals, because then it wouldn't look realistic at all. And again, I'm using the 2 strokes to achieve the size of petals that I want. Okay. I'm just kind of closing them off at the end. Now I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm going to add another round. Okay, so my inside petals are dry, and I have added more pigment, more paint to my pan, once again, to make my petals a little bit darker as we go into the inside or interior of the flower. And I even add a little bit of purple to kind of make it darker, I guess. So I'm gonna like pretend there's another circle here in the middle, which you can see the outline of the circle here. And I'm just gonna grab a spot there and just start pulling out with my brush. Same process as before, and I'm gonna leave that gap just like before so that we can go back and fill it in, because these flowers have an abundance of petals to them, and to really capture the way they look, you just want to have those layers to it. Okay, so I know that's not very many, but we're working on the inside of our flower, so I'm going to let this dry. Okay, so now we're going to go in. I've still got the same color. I didn't add any more. I'm going to add that second layer of petals to this row to fill in those gaps. And is it okay to leave a little white space? Yes, because quite often in nature you see light coming through petals. Just adds that little bit of extra beauty to it. Okay. And once again, we're going to let this one dry. Okay, so for this layer, I added more of the dark pink and purple blend and no water. So the less water, the darker your colors are going to be. And I'm just going to do a few petals on the inside. And I'm not going to make them ginormous because, you know, they're not going to be as big here. I still want them to be pointy though. And yes, this is just one row. And we're going to let that dry, and then we'll do 4 more on the center. Now, typically when I'm making these, I do leave a little more white space on the inside, and I just haven't done that today, and that's okay too. Sorry, my brush was super, super wet after rinsing it out. Try this again. We're going to add that color, and again, it is darker for that center, very center of the flower. And then we have our layers there. We're going to let that dry, and then we're going to put some pretty green leaves on here. So I think our flower looks really amazing. You can see the layers, almost that three-dimensional effect. Now we're going to add some green to our picture with some leaves. And you could do it where the leaves are just kind of blooming off of the edge of the flower. You can do that. You can come off with a stem and give it some leaves. And this will be your project, so you decide how you want to do it. I tend to overdo the greenery on pictures. I absolutely love the way leaves turn out. And so, I don't know, can you really go wrong with plenty of leaves? Perhaps. Perhaps you can. I don't think mine have ever turned out being disastrous because of it. Another thing you can do with the leaves as you're working, if they're lighter color, just take a darker green and kind of go through along the edges and let it bleed in as the paint is still wet, and it will fill in and look genuinely like you meant it to be that way. So I'm going to keep adding a few leaves, but other than that, that is the end of our video. I hope you guys try it out. I hope you stay warm. This weekend's supposed to be insanely cold where we're at, and we usually don't get these kind of temps, maybe sometimes into January, February. So I'm not looking forward to this, but my husband has enough firewood banked, and we're gonna be okay. we're just going to cozy up and stay toasty. And I hope you guys all do the same. If you get a chance to try the video or try the flower, let me know how it goes.